Hello again and welcome to another video from the Marketing Study Guide. In this video I'm going to go through the benefits and limitations of using a perceptual map. Now, as you most likely know, because you're watching this video, a perceptual map maps how consumers see brands or product categories in the marketplace. So let's have a look at the benefits or the reasons you should be using perceptual maps in your marketing. First, it's a reality check. In a company, we get so close to our brands and we seem to think how we think and feel about our brands is how consumers see them. That may be true for some very loyal and heavy use type consumers, but most people treat our brand with a degree of indifference. So we've got to go out to the marketplace and see how those consumers really think, rather than imposing our view on how we think they should be thinking, if that makes sense. So it becomes a reality check for us. The second thing is, obviously in many industries, brand positioning, being distinctive, occupying a particular spot in a consumer's mind in terms of their memory and understanding of the brand is important. Okay, it's critically a part of success. So it helps us set our strategy. We can see where we are, where our competitors are, where different segments see our brand, and what we need to do, how we need to reposition perhaps, how do we need to strengthen our position, how we need to become more distinctive in order to be more successful over time. It allows us to monitor our brand and competitive brands over time. So what I'm talking about here is using a series of perceptual maps, all time-based. So we can say, hey, here was the market 2 years ago, that was perceptions, a year ago, and then today. And we can see what's happening with our brands, what's happening with competitors, and we can see how positioning is evolving, which is fairly important. It's going to generate a whole bunch of market insights for us. I'm going to talk about them a bit later, but I've got a whole list of them there. So we're going to get a much better understanding, provided that we use perceptual maps effectively. If we just rush through it and use it quickly, which is one of the limitations here, we're not going to get a lot of value out of perceptual maps. Okay, so I'll touch on that soon. We can look by segment. One of the mistakes used in perceptual maps is simply looking at the overall market and looking at the average consumer. Because we do some research, we capture some valuable image data, and then we go, okay, let's put that on a perceptual map. But that's the average of all consumers. It doesn't take into account different viewpoints of different segments. So by using perceptual maps effectively, we can have a look at how different segments perceive us, how they perceive our competitors. Because different segments will look differently and have different concepts of the brands. Very important. It allows us to obviously identify direct, but also indirect competitors. So again, in marketing, we get bogged down with 2 or 3 players that we're always watching. What are they doing? Why do they do that? And we spend a lot of time on key and direct competitors, but we often forget about the indirect or the less threatening type competitors. So perceptual maps help us keep a track of all the relevant players, and even we can carry on with substitute or indirect competitors or other product categories to see how they are being perceived. Are they encroaching on our sales opportunities? Obviously, we can look at competitors, see what they're doing over time, including new players. So competitors were positioned here, and then they brought this product out here, this new brand, and that's positioned up there, and they've moved their positioning. So we can have a look at what's going on and try to work out why they're doing it. New players are often very interesting because they are obviously new entrants and they're coming into an established market with a different mindset. They're starting from scratch. They've got a blank sheet. So how are they seeing the market? What are they doing? They've entered the market because there's opportunities. So what market opportunities are they chasing? What are they going after? So often new players gives you a fresh perspective of what's going on. And finally, from a product perspective, it's often helpful for finding gaps and opportunities. Okay, before I go through the insights, let's have a look at the limitations. Now, perceptual maps are based on consumer perceptions. which means we need consumer information. So the first thing is we need to get data. Data is expensive to get, or take timely to get, or maybe structured poorly, and the biggest hurdle is probably money and time. So without it, we don't have perceptions, we're mapping other things. Valid market research surveys. Often we use online surveys. They have a self-selection bias. Often we have people who are connected to the brand or connected to the product category. They're heavy users, they're interested. So we get the viewpoint of a group of consumers rather than a cross-section. So again, it gets back to our research design. The more money we have, the more valid our research is likely to be. But if we only have limited funds, then chances are we're relying on a limited data set, which is going to be less accurate. As a result, this combination invites guesses. And what I mean by that is management will sit down and say, we don't need the data, we don't need the research, we can work it out, we can have a guess how the brands are positioned. And again, we're using that from our experience and our internal mindset of working with the brand all the time, but we're not really reflecting consumers. The only ones we will possibly are reflecting are those really loyal ones, those heavy users, and the ones who love the brand. Rather than stepping back and going, okay, here's a consumer who buys the brand once a year or twice a year. How do they see these brands? And why are they not buying us? We're not getting that. And we're just implying what management thinks or people in marketing think about it. And that's a fairly dangerous path to go down. Another limitation of perceptual maps, particularly the standard 2-axis map, is its undermine is simple. And it is. It's a simple tool, it visualizes. But if we just use one map, it is a simple analysis. If we're using a series of analysis of maps, we're analysing it, we're connecting it to other market data such as market shares, market mix changes, trying to work out why that positioning is changing, what's driving it, what are the underlying factors, then it becomes a very rich and powerful tool. But if we just pick 2 attributes out of a survey and put it on a chart and present it, yeah, it's simple. And it's dismissed as not a very powerful piece of analytics when it can be very valuable. Many perceptual maps we see, there are variations of them, but many we see rely on 2 attributes. They're just up and down across, and we map on 2 attributes, which adds to the simplicity, but again, doesn't tell us a lot. We need to run multiple maps and dig into the image data that we have. Top level analysis results in poor outcomes. What that means, again, like I said, we need to look at more than one map. We've done the data, we've captured the surveys information. That costs us a lot of money. That's expensive. We've got this rich data there. Let's use it. Let's go through map after map, looking for things we don't expect to see, looking for relationships, looking for connections, and again, matching it back to other marketing information and metrics we have to really get deep into this data. But generally, we do it quickly, and it's a limitation because it doesn't tell us much. And usually, if we're guessing, it tells us what we already know, so it has no real value. It really works better, the 2-axis one, works better for low involvement products. So they're the ones that people make decisions quickly, it's a habit purchase, they don't think about it, and they may rely on 1 or 2 attributes. Very handy if you're only mapping 2 attributes. High involvement products, we look at the sum of attributes, we look at the overall value proposition. We're looking, we get this, and this in our evaluation choice. In a simple perceptual map, we can't carry that across, we can't show that. There are variations of the perceptual map, which I have in other videos, so that's more valuable, but most perceptual maps are presented quite simply. And unfortunately, as I just mentioned, the focus is on the standard basic map. And that they're fine, they're great, and they should be used, but they should also be used with other types of perceptual mapping, not just one alone. Well, let's now turn to what market insights we can get from perceptual maps. Firstly, it's going to tell us where we want to be, which is our desired position, versus our real position. So this is this reality check. We think we're positioned here. Our marketing mix, our communications has tried to position here. We've worked really hard at it, but has that worked? Keep in mind, we've got competitors possibly chasing the same positioning space. So that could be a concern. How distinctive is our brand? So these maps are going to tell us, yep, we've got that ideal positioning, that's where we want it to be, but then we've got 3 or 4 competitors with a very similar positioning, and we end up in a cluttered market space where there's little points of difference between us and our key competitors. So we want certain positioning, but we also want to be distinctive or be differentiated or stand out on some important attribute, which is going to create an increased market share for us. We can work out how well we fit to segment preferences. So if we also ask in the survey, what is the ideal product on this attribute, or series of attributes, and then we could paint a picture of this segment here, they're after this type of product, or this combination of attributes. This segment's after a different set. So even though on a broad perceptual map we may appear to have a good positioning, have we positioned appropriately for the 1 or 2 target markets that we've identified? Or have we just positioned for the overall market, which is not as good? So do we fit to that? Okay, so as our target market, let's not look at everybody, and we may have more than one. We can track strategy outcomes, both for us and our competition. So again, if we do a time-based perceptual map, last year, the year before today, and we look at what we've been doing, the new products, our pricing changes, all our marketing mix, all our communications, our positioning efforts, we were here, now here, now here, and we map that against what we tried to do, our goals. Are we on track? Are we delivering? And this becomes an assessment of overall marketing in terms of the branding, a component of what we're doing. So tick, yes, we're achieving that. All that money we invested, all those new products is getting us there, or uh-oh, we've spent the money, we've done all this, we thought we would be positioned here, but we're actually here. Either way, valuable information. The fact that we're not quite getting there gives us information to go, something's not right, how do we fix this, what are we doing wrong? Or it could be competitor based. What are competitors doing? They were there, now they're over here. Another player's brought in a new brand and they've positioned it there. And there's a new entrant over here. So it gives us this sense of what the competitors are doing and we can actually work out why they're doing it. They become predictable if we can do that, rather than, oh, they've brought a product out. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, but where have they positioned it? And what was there before? And how has that impacted us? Very valuable information. Okay, so we're linking this back to the marketing mix elements, both for us and our competition. As I mentioned before, we can work out our direct and indirect competitors, our substitutes, the brands that we don't normally look at, the other product categories that we don't normally look at, because we can map them onto the same perceptual map and they'll stand out a lot more, particularly if we show it over time. Is another category trying to position closer to our category and try to steal some of our market size, for example. And we can see the market from the consumer's perspective, which attributes are similar. So if we ever have we'll have variations of perceptual maps, but we have one where there's correlation between 2 attributes, which will happen, attribute 1, attribute 2, and then we see all the brands being in a line, either that way or that way. Then we go, consumers are seeing these attributes as similar. Okay, so that tells us how they're seeing the marketplace. So if we position on that attribute, we'll pick up that as well, because there's a connection between them. Okay, so it gives us a greater understanding. So here's just a quick summary. I've got another video that goes through all the analytical parts on how we look at a perceptual map and pull it apart.